Okay, hi everyone. My name's Alan Hiddleston from D2L. I'm here to talk about how you could upgrade your learning programs. It's great to see everybody here for Learning Technology Summer Forums. Who's all excited about summer and holidays coming up? Okay, not that enthusiastic. I think there must be a few parents in the audience that are thinking, what are we going to do for the next 9 weeks when the kids are off? So, great, so what we're going to talk about today is going to do a little bit of quick introduction to who D2L is. I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think we should be talking about upgrading learning programs. I'm going to give some examples, and I'm going to just make like a possible suggestion about what people could do about that. And then if anyone wants to talk to us a little bit more about what we do or some of these ideas, we'll be over in stand 42 there. So one other thing to mention as well is that if anyone wants a copy of this presentation, the examples, etc. that are in it, if you let one of my colleagues, my glamorous assistant Moody, who's at the back, no one can see him, if you let him scan you, then he can email you a copy of the slides. We promise to not be forever in your inbox. Okay, right. So what does D2L do? Well, D2L has a vision to transform the way the world learns. I'm not going to read out all these things, but we've been around for 20 years. We work with 15 million people on the platform every day. We have about 1,300 customers. Originally a Canadian company, been in the UK and Europe and the rest of the world for quite a long time. We work with a range of different organizations. So I guess we work with specifically related to learning programs. Work with a lot of kind of large corporations to help them deliver high value programs, like which we'll get into in a bit more in a second. We also work with a lot of training companies that sort of sell learning programs into big companies, as well as we work with a lot of non-profit organizations and a lot of kind of really specialized organizations in industries like healthcare, for example, that deliver very high impact learning programs. So I guess there's probably three main areas that are learning platforms used in organizations, if I was to boil it down. So one, leadership programs, anywhere where people try to develop soft skills. Technical skill upgrading, so if you're trying to learn how to use new widget A or learn how to write a new software language or even just learn how to do something like accountancy or something that's very technical. Or if you're trying to learn to be better at customer service. So if you're trying to do something that's going to try and make you better in front of customers or overcoming challenges, dealing with difficult conversations, things that are harder to do than just sort of take a quiz at the end of e-learning. Okay, so why bother thinking about upgrading your learning programs? Well, I think everybody always thinks, well, we can always do a little bit better, right? And there's people who came to sit down, so I think you're bought into that idea, which is awesome. But I think that if we look at what's happening in the industry at the moment, we know that in the workforce today, disruption it's the new thing, right? Our whole world has been disrupted by new technology coming in. We're interacting and dealing with people in completely different new ways than we ever were before. And the majority of organizations don't have the skills in the workforce now to be ready for how that's not only happening today, but how that's going to increase in the future. The good news is that 74% of people say that they're actually ready to learn new skills. This is a reference study here. I didn't just make that up to give people sort of hope and delight. But yeah, it's a PwC study about that. But actually, more than half of organizations say that they don't have the programs in place to develop those skills for the future. So on one hand, extremely optimistic. People are up for the challenge. Let's do this. Let's learn. On the other hand, companies not quite there, not quite ready for it. There's a lot of things happening today in the world, as we know. Massive generational shift in the workforce. And I'm not going to go on about how millennials are kind of changing everything. I think we're all kind of sick of hearing about that, but it is an impact. We've got a multi-generational workforce now, and next generation technologies are coming in, which are making things better for some people, harder for others. And we need to think about those things. People have very different customer expectations with digital technology today, not just in learning, just in general in your life. You use it all the time, and then your last kind of best experience with some digital technology is what you expect in the next thing, right? Somebody says we want search, they mean we want Google. Somebody says we want a feed, they mean we want Facebook, right? media consumption trends are changing with that. So people are looking at their phones and listening to the TV and watching TV on their phone. And the pace of industry change is just continuing, and it's only going to increase in the future. When we look at learning systems, and I don't want to kind of seem like this, I'm not sledging any particular solution or product in any way here, but in the past, the traditional learning management system was originally built around about sort of compliance and built around about that was the main business driver around about it, and it was built around about the baby boomer generation. It was a 9-to-5 work day. You had one employer for life, and things were very much like classroom learning, face-to-face training, and then we were bringing e-learning in to do this at scale, right? And it made a huge amount of sense. But it was very much a system of record. A lot of times it was on-premise. Fast forward to today, which is about 20 years on from the dawn of the kind of first LMSs, it's a very different business driver. People are saying, well, in our organization, we want to engage our workforce. Engagement is the main thing. We need engagement, and we're going to give people this learning, and that's going to make them engaged. And we're going to give this to the millennials, and they're going to be able to do it 24/7, and they're going to leave us in 3.5 years' time. So we need to get the most value out of these people in the time they're here, get them properly skilled for all the things we're trying to do in our organization. And we want to support all the different styles of learning that people have and the expectations that they have now with personalized things and social and mobile, and it all has to be in the palm of your hand. And so there's all these new systems that are built around about engagement, and I guess we're probably in that bucket as well. And there's a whole ton of them here today, and lots of people have got different ideas and different strategies and approaches to that. But these are sort of cloud-based things, they're interactive, they're mobile. But when we think about learning programs, we think about kind of things that are going to last longer than like it's not just a 1-hour course that you got to take on GDPR. We all love them, But if you think about things that people have got to learn, like if someone's going to learn to become an accountant, or someone's going to learn to become a leader, or they're going to learn to become like a customer service ninja, or whatever that is, then it's hard, and there's a lot of things you've got to go through, and there's problem solving, and you've got to learn to change soft skills, and you need technical stuff. You're going to work in groups, you're going to do role play, and it's kind of hard. And a lot of technology that's out there on both sides has really held back advancement in that area, because a lot of these things, they're typically taught in a classroom, and a lot of the content is actually things that are internal to the organization. So it's actually the subject matter experts, it's actually quite hard to download their brain into a digital format and get that rocking and rolling. So I want to start to talk about what I think an upgraded learning program could look like in a digital world. So first of all, it's got to be personalized and customized. Some of my Canadian colleagues come up with the expression, one size fits me, which at first I thought, that's really cheesy, and maybe you think it's quite cheesy as well. But I quite like it actually, because that's what people want now, right? They're interested in an experience, a digital experience that's for them. That's what we get in the mobile, in social media, in the web, in Amazon. These systems know more about what you want than what you actually do. So it's got to be personalized to you. It's got to be customized for the organization. It's not just the same old. We'll want feedback, right? So that's a big part of programs, is people do practice and they get feedback, and then they improve the skill, and then they get more feedback and they get better. And that's a big part of it. And that needs to happen if we're going to take this in a digital world, that's got to happen in the digital world. So using things like video tools and rich feedback tools is a great way. We have this concept that we call social assessment, which I'll talk more about in a second, but that's a great way to actually get that happening in a learning program. It's got to be motivating, right? It's got to push people forward. When you actually come to a classroom and you meet other people and you see how they're doing, and that group's come out with a better answer than you have, these things are motivating and they push people on and do that. We're in a sort of like digital world, it's like, okay, you've got to kind of drive that engagement. And we'll talk more about gamification in a second, but I know there's already half the people are thinking, yeah, we tried gamification, it doesn't work for our learners, but we'll come back to that. But I do think that motivating people using gamification is a great way. We've got to empower experts to be able to create useful and engaging content easily in a digital world. right? So there's lots of amazing people in organizations that have all the information in their head. You can get them to show up to a classroom session and download it, but it's a very difficult challenge to get that to happen in a digital world. So you need to really empower practitioners to start authoring content and author it in a way that doesn't look like something that a kind of 5-year-old cooked up. Although when I see some of the stuff my son draws, it's actually kind of better than maybe some of the things I've got in this presentation. The other thing is analytics as well, right? So when people think about a learning platform, they immediately go into LMS, dashboards, who's done this, who's not done it, who's overdue, who do we need to chase up, are we compliant, are we not compliant? But actually, if we're going to, if we're not sitting in front of people in a room and they're doing this program all over the world, we need to see, are they getting it? How are they learning? How are they engaging with stuff? Are they spending time in things? Are they getting this? Are they not? Do they need help? So we're going to look at some analytics as well that can go beyond just, did Alan do it or did you not? Okay. So first of all, personalization, customization. That's what people expect in the rest of the world. So when people log into some type of platform, they expect to see my stuff. I want my courses, my programs, I want my actions, my notifications, my messages, my announcements, my calendar, where are things that are happening. If I'm in a longer term program, maybe I've got an app that's going to tell me when are classroom things happening. Do I need to move stuff about? Can I access those things? Can I dive into those things? So people want that personalized, customized experience that's really for them. And they want things that are common to the rest of their life, right? They want to see YouTube videos. They want a social feed. They want to see Google Maps. They just want all of those things in one place that's just like the rest of the world, because that's, if you said, well, where are we going? The first thing you do is get Google out. So just overcome that challenge for people and stick it there. One of the other elements we talked about was the F word. They're thinking, I'm Scottish, she's going to start swearing now. I won't live up to that stereotype. Feedback, right? So I often ask people, how do you give feedback in your organization? Most people will describe the process that roughly involves either people sitting in a group, some type of therapy style session, or managers giving feedback, or a peer giving feedback across a table. And that is obviously the most common way to do it, and it's one of the most popular ways to learn and develop soft skills and other technical skills. However, we have this model that we call social assessment. And we have a big ebook on our website. If anyone's interested in this, you can go and delve into it a little bit more, come speak to us about it more. But essentially, it's based on the kind of premise that this is how feedback works, right? You get feedback from peers, so you've got that kind of near-peer learning. You learn from people who are just a little bit better than you in areas, and you get feedback from experts who are really a lot better than you. And you go and incorporate that feedback, and then you use that, and you improve a skill, and it's a loop, and we're all kind of familiar with that model. So you can give feedback quite easily in a sort of face-to-face situation. It's not that hard to do if you know how to do that. For some people, it can be extremely awkward because they're not properly skilled and they don't understand how to do that. But it's easier. You don't have many challenges to overcome. But if you're trying to give feedback to someone who's in Australia and you're sitting in your house in Scotland, like I might be, then that's quite hard because you're either getting up really early in the morning or you're staying up really late at night, and then you're trying to do that, and it's difficult and you're not going to prioritize it. But what you can do is you can start to use things like video assessments. So you can say to people, right, I am going to teach you how to become better at having difficult conversations, right? So here's a scenario. We want you to record your response. So Alex, I've recorded my response. Alex has given me some feedback there at 4 seconds saying, hey, make sure you smile. Okay, it's a bit of a daft comment, but you can timestamp comment feedback on that video and say, listen, stop touching your beard all the time, like it makes you look nervous, like sit with your hands on the table, or project more when you're speaking, or don't say this, it sounds a bit negative. But giving people timestamp feedback means that you can support coaching and feedback in an asynchronous way. So Alex can go in and make that comment in the middle of the night when I'm asleep. I get up in the morning, I can go and have a look at that when I log on to my system. And we can actually even give video feedback as well. So we can actually say, I don't really know how to say this, but this is how I would say it, and pop the video on and say, listen, when you're talking like that, stop using your hands so much, it's a bit distracting, whatever. So you could actually record alternative scenarios. You could do this in an individual basis, or you can even do it in a group scenario where you can get multiple people comment and give them feedback. But giving feedback's hard, right? And if you don't know how to do it properly, then chances are you're, at risk of sort of offending people, or just at worst, you feel uncomfortable about it, they don't get much value out of it, you feel bad about it. And we don't really learn how to give feedback. So obviously, there's an internal training exercise in most organizations about how to give feedback, but you need to know what good looks like. And I never really figured out, is this a real picture or not? Or is this one of these things that exist on the internet? I don't know. I really like it. It's cool. You need to know what good looks like, and that's, I guess, what winning a gold medal looks like. But and people need that help. They need to know that's just what it looks like to give feedback and how to do it well. And if you do that, then you can support people to make incremental improvements in their job, to develop skills over time. You can help them become a butterfly. But in order to scaffold that process, you can use technology to your advantage, right? Because actually with that distributed workforce, Alex is sitting in Australia, he might not know that well, like how to give me feedback about that. And so you can actually use a tool that it's called Rubrics, which some of you may be familiar with. Some of you may be thinking, what? Did you make that up? No, it's an actual thing. Google it. But you can use both that to scaffold the process for experts and peers to give better quality feedback. And it provides guardrails for them, So you can give people a sort of structured feedback framework. So you can say, right, Alex, you're giving Alan feedback on his difficult conversation, and this is what you're looking for. So there's levels, there's the criteria you're looking for, press the button on the screen, and hey presto, pick those things, here's the description of them, this is what we're looking for on all the different levels. And therefore, Alan gets really useful, contextual feedback, and maybe he also gets some video examples as well added into that are going to really help him to see, well, that's not only am I getting the real objective feedback, which is useful to me to improve my performance, I can also get some video examples of this is what good looks like in context as well. So that I've just really talked about a one-to-one scenario, but you can also do this in a group scenario as well. So you can really, for a bit of fun, you can open this up to lots of different people. You obviously have to create the culture that makes this okay, right? You have to create the culture and you have to secure that. And technology can help as well, because you can lock it down to a small group or a one-to-one basis and give people the security and the comfort knowing that, that's how this feedback's going to work and this is okay. So we talked about gamification of learning. So there's actually been a lot of people speaking to us today about gamification of learning and how they can best make use of it. And I think one of the popular misconceptions about gamification of learning is that it's all about points and badges and leaderboards, right? And actually, that's only good for the 5% of your workforce that's really competitive and wants to be like at the top of the leaderboard. Most people are just, we're just doing our training and like, if we get a badge, okay, whatever. So, but gamification, it doesn't sound like you're going to get you excited about gamification, but there are other game mechanics that you can use to get people excited and enthused about learning. Now, I'm just going to do a really quick example of one of our clients who trains on possibly one of the most exciting subjects in the world, which is accountancy. Woo! Not any accountants in, okay. So what they did was they said, right, well, we're going to gamify some of learning, right, because that seems to be the cool thing to do, but there's actually a lot of evidence to support the fact that that will actually improve engagement with a digital learning platform, help us get better results, because they're a Kaplan, they train accountants, and that's what they get paid to do, and that's actually a really important thing. So being the wacky accountants that they are, they come up with some really cool jokes and badges, like Mind the Gap, and Mad Tax, and It's a Cruel World. That's what they do for fun. And I think they get a bad rap, right? Because they are actually quite fun people. So, no offense. But what they did was they actually said, well, we're not going to just gamify like you got the highest score on the test, you get the most points. Because that's just going to encourage more of what we had in the past. And it's just going to alienate all the people who are actually kind of okay and working hard. And actually, that's a lot of the workforce. So what they said was, we're going to reward good learning behavior, right? So we're actually going to try and encourage more of what makes people better in the platform, and we're going to give points for that, and we're going to pit classes against each other, we're going to pit individuals against each other, but we're going to reward good behavior. We don't care as much about the scores that you get. So they looked at a range of different criteria, 5 in total, and they said, well, if you do these things, then that's good learning behavior. So number 1 is you actually attempt the first test, which sounds a bit like, okay, you're not being very positive about it, but actually going in, do something, we give you a badge, your brain's like, ooh, I got a badge, you got a little notification, our brain likes that, we secrete dopamine, we get these social notifications. But then going back and attempting subsequent tests, that's another good behavior. These are behaviors and culture that their customers want to encourage as well in their organization. They want people who are diligent. They want people who will work hard. They want people who will come back. They want people who may not get it right first time. They might take 7 attempts. They might actually even come back and try to get the highest score, even if they didn't get it right the first time. So they thought it would be better to actually gamify some of those things. They actually thought it would be good to gamify stuff that's quite good in business as well, like getting stuff done before deadlines. And if you do that, you get extra points. And actually going through all of the different bits of content means that you will actually do better in the end exam. And so they decide to gamify that. Obviously, that's what you should do, but obviously that's what no one does. But they decide to gamify that as a way to try and get people to do it a bit more. And the results, whoa, isn't this an exciting graph? What does it mean? Well, what it means is basically the people that got the highest scores in gamification also got the highest final marks in the exam at the end. You can argue the toss about this and say, oh, well, that just means that they were going to do that anyway. But they do know from past performance that that was not always the case, okay? And actually being able to use gamification to drive engagement with the platform, with the learning, has had a significant impact on the scores and the overall outcomes these people got. So, amazing. Gamification in accountancy, even the most uncool things can become interesting. Other things that we have to do to get these programs rocking and rolling is you've got to be agile, right? So we talked about empowering experts to capture their knowledge and do this. So if you can capture the voice of the organization, capture what makes you special as an organization and train that, and you can do that at pace, then you can develop a competitive advantage over other organizations. And that is something that I guess is quite a strategic conversation that you can have with learning and within your organization with senior stakeholders. And actually, it can be things that are fairly simple, right? You start to ask subject matter experts to create content, but you give them a nice template, a framework to do it that's instructionally sound, that's mobile responsive, that's accessible. And actually, they can go off and do some things that are pretty good. And they might not be the best production in the whole world, but they're good enough, and they've actually got really valuable insights from their experience that other people can share in. One of the last things we talked about in my what does that vision look like is analytics that go beyond compliance. I always find it really hard to show analytics and make it seem really exciting without showing like some 3D pie charts. So I haven't done that, and it doesn't look that exciting. But you can see here that we're looking at more than just who's done what and who's not. We can see progress through content. If we drill down into this, we can see time people are spending on various different content items, how often they're visiting them, are they logging in, are they not logging in, how are they doing like in all the scores and the tests, and we could look at a whole range of other different metrics. But the key thing here is we're looking at more than just have they done it or not, right? We're looking at other metrics and trying to understand how people are learning and progressing through the program. We can also start to be much more imaginative with data as well. So if we can start to encourage collaboration, we've built this social learning index. So this is an analytics tool that can look at some key criteria that we know makes people really good in online learning programs. So actually one of the things is, have they accessed courses, right? It sounds dumb, but actually you're going to do better if you've accessed the material and you've actually prepared for whatever assignment or things you have to do at the end of this. But there's other things as well like social learning, and what this graph shows really well on this particular filter is the bigger the blob, the more active you are, and then if you're green, then you're really good, and if you're amber, you're in the middle, and if you're red, then you're just kind of getting started. But this shows all the interaction that people have had with each other in the platform. So little lines drawn to each other are the little interactions they've had with different people. What we can actually do about this is we can actually see Ethan's a bit of a loner. here in terms of digital. He's hiding. We could get Ethan and we could actually message him, or we could team him up with somebody else and say, hey, by the way, can you message Ethan, get him in your team on this program because he's not done anything and needs help and he's brought along. So it's not just the fact that it looks cool and we can say, hey, yeah, social learning's working in our organization. Look at this, really cool. And it's animated as well, so it does look really cool. You can actually use it to make interventions and try and get people to work together and actually try and improve the overall performance in the program. So we talked at the start about these different platforms and the different drivers round about them and where people are in the journey. And there'll be a lot of people here today that are thinking, do we need an LMS? Do we need an LXP? Why do we need that? What does that one do? What does that mean? What is an LXP? What is an LMS? And I think I'm starting to come round to the thinking that maybe actually learning programs need their own platform. And it's going to create problems if people actually start to do that. But because people are going to have another box and another list of things they're going to have to look at. But actually, if you look at the LMS, most organizations got an LMS that's in place in some shape or form. That might not go away anytime soon, and it's a really important tool for compliance learning and e-learning. And on the other end of things, you've got this super cool learner experience platform that's crunching up loads of assets from all over the place, using machine learning AI to set people off on these self-driven journeys to go and learn things they want to do. But actually, with the skill gap that we have in our workforce today, you're going to have to get people through structured programs to really develop skills, focusing them on in practice, using coaching as you go along the way. They're going to be facilitated. You definitely want them to be collaborative. So actually, I'm starting to propose that maybe we should be thinking about that might be its own thing. You might have your own thing that does that. And that might be something that people should be thinking about for the future, particularly in an extremely large organization that maybe already has an LMS and an LXP in their technology stack. If you're kind of middle-sized organization, then you're probably thinking, oof, geez, we've got enough already with the LMS. And maybe you could be looking for elements of those capabilities within your other systems that you have. So in summary, digitization of work is happening. It's a challenge. It's also an opportunity. It allows us to actually technology today is actually starting to provide solutions now that we can use to make those things digital, to get out of the classrooms, to start to do practice and actually support that kind of coaching, mentoring and learning on the job way in quite an exciting and engaging way, I think. So basically I'm saying it's time for an upgrade for your learning programs. And if you'd like to speak to us, we're on stand 42. We have a lot to say about that. And connect with me online as well. I'm on LinkedIn. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a really great day. Thank you.